Sandra walked out of the studio with slow and shaky steps. Everyone on set had seen her smile all morning, yet something inside her had finally broken. The cameras had stopped. The crew had gone silent. No one knew exactly what had pushed her to this point. All they saw was her eyes filling with tears as she left the stage. The moment felt heavy, the kind of moment where everyone wants to help but no one knows what to say. People looked at each other, unsure if they should follow her or give her space. It was a confusing scene filled with quiet worry. But Keanu did not wait. He was already walking after her before anyone else moved. He kept his pace calm and gentle, as if he understood that rushing would only make things worse. He followed her down the hallway where her soft footsteps echoed against the walls. Sandra tried to wipe her face, hoping no one had seen the tears. But Keanu had seen them clearly, and he knew they were not the kind that faded quickly. Sandra reached the far corner near the back exit. She leaned on the wall and closed her eyes, trying to breathe. She felt embarrassed. She felt overwhelmed. She felt like her emotions had slipped out in a place where she was supposed to stay strong. Keanu stopped a few steps behind her. He did not speak right away. He let a few seconds pass so she could sense that someone was near without feeling pressured. Then he said in a quiet voice, almost like a soft reminder that she was not alone, "I am here if you want to talk." Sandra opened her eyes and let out a long, slow breath. She did not turn around yet. "Keanu," she whispered, "I am sorry, I should not have walked off like that." Keanu stepped closer, but kept a comfortable distance. "You do not need to be sorry," he said softly. "Something upset you, that is human." His words were simple, yet they carried a weight that felt warm and grounding. Sandra felt her shoulders relax a little. She finally turned to face him. Her eyes were red but full of honesty. "I tried to stay strong," she said, "but everything hit me at once. It felt like my mind just stopped listening to me." Keanu nodded with full attention. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He just listened. This made Sandra feel safe enough to continue. "The scene we were filming reminded me of something from years ago," she said slowly. "I thought I had moved past it. Today I found out I had not." Keanu understood. Not the full story yet, but the feeling behind it. He knew what it was like when old memories suddenly rise without warning. He knew the power they could have. "You do not have to face things alone," he said. "Not today." These words softened something inside her. But at the same time, Sandra felt a wave of embarrassment return. She worried that the crew might think she was unprofessional. She worried people would make wrong assumptions. "I should go back soon," she said. "People will be waiting." Keanu shook his head gently. "They can wait a few minutes," he replied. "Your well-being matters more. Let yourself breathe." Sandra looked down, touched by his kindness. She slowly nodded. They both stepped outside to the small, empty courtyard behind the studio. The air was cool and quiet. There were no cameras, no noise, only two people standing side by side. Keanu kept his voice calm. "Take your time," he said. "I will stay here with you." The silence between them was peaceful, not heavy, not awkward. It was the kind of silence that gives the heart room to settle. After a while, Sandra spoke again. "Thank you," she said. "I know you have your own scenes and your own schedule, but you came after me without thinking twice." Keanu gave a gentle smile. "I did think," he said. "I thought you should not sit with this alone." Sandra felt her throat tighten at the sincerity of his words. She did not expect anyone to understand her so quickly, but Keanu always had a way of seeing people beyond the surface. She took a slow breath and said, "I felt like I was falling apart in front of everyone. I hate showing weakness like that." Keanu looked at her with steady eyes. "Showing emotion is not weakness," he said. "It shows that your heart is alive." Sandra felt something shift inside her, a small but real sense of relief. The courtyard remained quiet. A bird landed on the railing nearby. The wind moved gently through the trees. The world seemed to slow down just enough for Sandra to gather herself. "I think I needed this moment," she whispered. "Then it is good you took it," Keanu replied. She looked at him and saw nothing but respect. No judgment, no pressure, just a calm presence standing with her. But just as the moment started to settle, they both heard a noise behind the door leading back inside the studio. Voices, hurried footsteps, something was happening. Keanu turned slightly, his expression alert. Sandra felt her heart pick up again, this time not from sadness but from curiosity and worry. The door cracked open and one of the assistant directors rushed out. He looked stressed and confused. "Keanu, Sandra," he said breathlessly. "You both need to come see something. Something happened on set." Sandra and Keanu exchanged a concerned glance. Keanu spoke first. "What happened?" The assistant director shook his head. "I do not know how to explain it. You need to see it yourselves." A sudden wave of tension filled the air. Sandra wiped her face quickly. Keanu placed a supportive hand near her shoulder without touching, offering silent strength. Together, they followed the assistant director back into the building. Each step felt heavier. Something unexpected was waiting for them. Something that would change the rest of the day in ways neither of them could have predicted. And this was only the beginning. The hallway felt different as Sandra and Keanu walked back toward the set. Only a few minutes ago, everything had been loud and busy. Now there was a strange quiet in the air. People stood in small groups whispering to each other. Some looked worried. Others looked confused. Something had clearly shaken the entire crew. Sandra felt her heartbeat rise again, but she kept moving. Keanu stayed close by her side, steady and calm. Even without touching her, he made her feel less alone. His presence had a way of grounding her, like a quiet anchor in the middle of a storm. As they reached the main stage, the assistant director slowed down. He looked back at them with wide, uneasy eyes. "Before we go in," he said softly, "just be prepared." Sandra exchanged a glance with Keanu. Both nodded. When they stepped inside the studio, they saw the reason for all the tension. The set lights were still on, but everyone had stepped away from the center. The monitors were frozen on the exact frame where Sandra had walked out earlier. But that was not the strange part. The strange part was the sound system. It was playing a recording. A recording no one recognized. Keanu moved closer, studying the room carefully. Sandra followed, her breath shallow. The recording continued to play, the voice soft and unclear at first, almost like a whisper. Then slowly it grew louder. "You do not need to carry this alone." Sandra froze. Keanu looked at her immediately. "Is that your voice?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "No, I have never said that, not like that." Someone from the sound team raised their hands. "We did not start this. We do not even know where it came from. The system turned on by itself and began playing this loop." The voice played again. "You do not need to carry this alone." The entire crew watched Sandra with uncertain eyes, though no one dared to speak. Keanu stepped forward. "Turn off the speakers." The sound crew tried, but nothing stopped the loop. They pressed the power button. They unplugged cables. Even when the screens went black, the voice kept replaying through the room like it was coming from the air itself. Sandra felt cold inside her chest. "Why is this happening?" she whispered. Keanu stayed calm and steady. He motioned for the crew to give them space, and everyone stepped back. He moved closer to Sandra so the two of them stood at the center of the stage. "Look at me," he said softly. She slowly lifted her eyes. "Whatever this is, we will figure it out together," he assured. "You are not facing this alone, remember that." The words were simple but powerful. Hearing them in his real voice made the looped recording feel less frightening. But there was still something strange about the timing, something deeper. Keanu turned back to the sound crew. "When did this start?" "Right after Sandra left the stage," one of them said. "Maybe 2 minutes after." Keanu's jaw tightened slightly. Not anger, just deep focus. He was trying to understand the situation from every angle. Sandra stepped closer to the sound board. She listened again as the mysterious voice repeated. The tone was soft but carried a hint of emotion she could not fully place. It almost sounded like someone trying to comfort her, someone who knew she was hurting. But she had never heard that voice in her life. "Does anyone recognize this voice?" Keanu asked the crew. Everyone shook their heads. The assistant director swallowed hard. "It is like the studio itself recorded something we never heard." Sandra sighed, feeling overwhelmed again. "I really cannot handle more confusion right now." Keanu gently placed a comforting presence near her shoulder again, giving her the feeling that she had support even when nothing made sense. "Then you will not handle it alone," he said. "I am with you. We will take this one step at a time." Sandra nodded, taking strength from his calm tone. The director finally stepped forward. "We can pause the shoot for a while," he said. "Everyone can take a break while we sort this out." But before anyone moved, the voice on the speakers changed. This time the message was different. "You walked away because you were tired of pretending." The entire room fell silent. Sandra's breath stopped for a moment. That sentence hit too close to what she had been feeling earlier, but she had not said those words to anyone, not even to herself out loud. Keanu noticed her tense posture and spoke quietly. "Sandra, do not jump to conclusions. This might be a glitch or an old recording from something unrelated." But Sandra shook her head slowly. "No glitch sounds like this. This feels personal." Keanu studied her expression. He knew she was not easily frightened. He knew she was strong, patient, and emotionally aware. But today she looked tired in a way he rarely saw. "Let us step outside for a moment," he said. "Just you and me, clear air, no noise." She nodded gratefully. As they walked toward the exit, the voice suddenly grew louder again behind them, as if calling directly to her. "Stop running from what hurts you." Sandra stopped walking. Her entire body froze, her hands trembled. Keanu immediately turned to face her. "Stay with me," he said gently. "How does it know that?" she whispered. Keanu guided her toward the door again, keeping his voice low. "It does not know anything. It is just a coincidence. Do not let fear build its own story." Sandra nodded, trying to trust his steady tone. They stepped outside again into the same quiet courtyard where she had cried earlier. The air was clearer here, softer. She inhaled slowly, trying to calm herself. Keanu stood beside her with a calm focus. "Tell me what you are thinking," he said. She hesitated before speaking. The voice said things that touched the exact thoughts I had earlier, the exact feelings. "I do not understand how that is possible." Keanu looked thoughtful. There might be a technical explanation. Maybe someone recorded something in the past that was accidentally triggered. Sandra shook her head. "I would remember if I ever said those words." Keanu listened carefully. "Then we will look deeper, but do not blame yourself and do not be afraid. You are safe." A long breath escaped Sandra's chest. "I believe you," she said quietly. For a few moments they remained silent. The world around them felt still, peaceful compared to the chaos inside the studio. But then something unexpected happened. The back door opened again. The assistant director stepped out holding a small black device in his hand. "We found this under the main sound board," he said. "Someone placed it there. It was hidden." Keanu and Sandra both stared at the device. "What is it?" Keanu asked. "A voice trigger recorder," the assistant director said. "It plays pre-recorded messages when activated by certain sounds." Sandra felt a strange mix of relief and confusion. "So someone did this on purpose," she whispered. Keanu stepped closer to the device, inspecting it carefully. "It looks like someone wanted you to hear those messages at that exact moment," he said slowly. Sandra swallowed hard. "But why? Who would do that?" Keanu looked at her with calm assurance. "We will find out," he said, "and I promise you will not face any of this alone." His voice was steady, grounding, sincere. But deep inside, both of them knew something important had just begun. Someone had tried to reach Sandra in a strange, unsettling way. And the reason behind it was still hidden. The small black device sat on the table between them like a silent question no one could answer yet. Its dark surface reflected the courtyard light, giving it an almost cold presence. Sandra kept staring at it, trying to understand why anyone would go through so much trouble just to make her hear those messages. Keanu stayed at her side, steady as always. He watched every shift in her expression, making sure she did not feel overwhelmed again. There was a firmness in his eyes now, a quiet determination. The assistant director cleared his throat softly. "We checked the recordings," he said. "The voice is not from the studio. It is not from any of our previous shoots. Someone recorded these messages somewhere else and placed the device where we would not find it easily." Sandra felt her stomach tighten. "How long has it been there?" "Maybe days," he replied. "Maybe weeks, we cannot tell." Keanu crossed his arms thoughtfully. "Someone planned this." The assistant director nodded. "Yes, and whoever did it wanted Sandra to hear those messages during the scene today." This detail hit Sandra harder than the rest. "But why me?" she whispered. I do not have problems with anyone here. The crew is kind. Everyone is professional who would even think about doing something like this. Keanu looked at her gently. Sometimes people hide their intentions behind polite faces, but we will not assume anything yet. We need more answers. The assistant director placed the device inside a small evidence bag. We will check the security cameras. Maybe someone was seen near the sound board. Please do that, Keanu said calmly, and let us know as soon as you find something. The assistant director nodded and went back inside, leaving Sandra and Keanu alone again. Sandra looked down, rubbing her hands slowly. This feels so personal, she said, like someone knew I was struggling today. Keanu watched her carefully. Does anyone outside the crew know what you were feeling lately? Sandra shook her head. No, I never told anyone. I keep most things inside. Keanu knew that. She was strong on the surface, gentle with people, always respectful, always patient. But she carried her pain quietly, sometimes too quietly. He took a slow breath and spoke softly. If someone wanted to shake you emotionally, they would target the exact things you try to hide. Sandra looked at him with wide eyes, almost surprised at how clearly he understood her. You see right through things, do you know that, she said. Keanu gave a small, soft smile. I try to see people, not just moments. His words warmed her chest, but the fear inside her was still present, lingering like a shadow she could not push away. Keanu, she whispered, what if the person who did this is still around? What if they are watching? Keanu's expression shifted from gentle to protective. His posture straightened, his eyes sharpened slightly. Then they should know something, he said in a calm, steady tone. She looked up at him. What? That you are not alone, he answered, and that they will face me before they ever reach you. The certainty in his voice made her breath catch. They stood there for a few seconds in silence, both feeling the weight of the moment. Finally, Sandra spoke again, her voice small. I just want to know what this means, what they wanted me to feel, what they wanted from me. Keanu nodded slowly. We will understand it, step by step, but do not let fear take the lead. We will handle this in the right way. Before Sandra could respond, the courtyard door opened again. This time it was the head of security. He walked toward them with a serious expression. We checked the cameras, he said. We found something. Sandra's heart skipped. Keanu leaned forward slightly. Show us. The security head handed Keanu a tablet. On the screen was a recording from earlier that morning. The camera angle showed the area around the sound board. Someone wearing a hooded jacket approached the equipment slowly. They moved carefully, looking around before crouching down. The figure placed something under the sound board. Then they stood up and walked away without looking back. Sandra felt her entire body tense. Keanu stared at the screen with deep focus. Do we have a clearer angle, he asked. The security head shook his head. They avoided all the good cameras. This angle is the only one where we see them. Sandra stepped closer, her voice trembling. Did they ever look up? Can we see their face? The security head hesitated for a moment before answering. Only once. He tapped the screen. The figure paused mid-step. Then slowly they lifted their heads slightly, looking toward the far end of the room. For a single second their face was partially visible, not enough to identify clearly, but enough to show one thing. A faint scar on the left side of the jaw. Sandra gasped softly. Keanu narrowed his eyes. The security head spoke in a low voice. Do either of you recognize that? Sandra slowly nodded, her breath shaking. I think I do, she whispered. I have seen someone with that same scar before. Keanu looked at her. Where? Sandra swallowed hard. Not here, not in this studio. She paused, gathering the courage to continue. Someone from years ago. Keanu's face shifted into deep concern. Someone who once hurt me. Her voice cracked as she said it. The courtyard felt suddenly quiet, heavier than before. And for the first time since everything began, Keanu felt something inside him sharpen with protective anger. He stepped closer to her, his voice soft but firm. Tell me everything, he said. The moment felt like the turning point of something much bigger. A past pain had just resurfaced, and now they had to uncover why it had come back. The air around them felt heavier than before. Sandra stood still, her eyes fixed on the image frozen on the tablet screen. The hooded figure with the faint scar on the jaw seemed to stare back at her through the pixels. The memory of that scar stirred something old and painful inside her. Keanu watched her carefully. He noticed the way her hands trembled slightly, the way her breathing changed. He took a small step closer, offering silent support. "Sandra," he said gently, "you do not have to rush. Tell it in your own time." She nodded slowly, though the moment clearly cost her effort. "Years ago," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I worked on a project with a man who made me feel unsafe. Not in a physical way, but in a way that stayed with me long after the project ended." Keanu listened with full attention. He did not interrupt. Sandra continued. "He used to watch me in this strange way, always too focused, always too close. He never crossed any clear line, so I could never complain officially, but he made every day uncomfortable." She paused, her voice tightening. "One day he got angry because I refused to rehearse a scene alone with him. He said I was acting like I was better than him. When he walked away, I saw that scar on his jaw for the first time. It happened during a stunt earlier that month. I never forgot the shape of it." Keanu's jaw tightened. "What was his name?" Sandra shook her head. "I do not want to say it yet. The memory is too heavy and I am not even sure it is him. The angle is bad. The camera is blurry. I do not want to accuse anyone without proof." Keanu nodded. "That is fair, but the feeling you have matters. It might be important." Sandra took a shaky breath. "I thought he was gone from my life. I thought I would never hear his name again." Keanu placed a gentle presence near her, creating a sense of safety. "If he is involved, then we will deal with it. But you are right. We need more clarity first." The security head stood silently, respecting their space. When Sandra finally looked up at him, he spoke softly. "We will check every angle again. We will run the image through our system and see if we can match a face. But for now, we only have this 1 second of visibility." Sandra nodded, appreciating his effort. Keanu turned to Sandra again. "Come with me for a moment," he said in a calm voice. She followed him to a quieter corner of the courtyard where the light felt softer. The sound of the studio faded behind them. For a few seconds, they just breathed in silence. Keanu spoke first. "You said he made you feel unsafe. How long did that feeling last?" Sandra lowered her eyes. "Longer than I like to admit. Some people do not understand how emotional discomfort can shape your whole day. Every word he said felt like it carried a hidden meaning. Every look he gave me felt like pressure." She paused. "I never called it manipulation, but maybe it was." Keanu nodded slowly. "Manipulation does not always need loud actions. Sometimes it is quiet, subtle, but it still leaves a mark." Sandra felt a tear form again, but she wiped it away quickly. "I am tired of feeling small in front of memories." Keanu looked at her with steady eyes. "You are not small," he said softly. "Your strength today is not in hiding pain. Your strength is in facing it." She swallowed hard. "I did not expect today to turn into this." "Neither did I," Keanu said. "But here we are, and we will walk through it together." His voice carried warmth and certainty. Before Sandra could respond, the assistant director came rushing back into the courtyard. "We found something else," he said, "on the device." Keanu and Sandra stepped closer. "What is it?" Keanu asked. The assistant director held up a small, folded piece of paper. "This was tucked inside the battery slot. Someone wanted it hidden." He handed it to Keanu. The paper was thin and creased, as if someone had folded and unfolded it several times before finally leaving it there. Keanu opened it carefully. A short message was written in small, neat handwriting. "She still pretends she is fine. She still carries it like a secret. She still does not know I see it." Sandra felt her breath stop. Keanu read it again silently, his expression darkening with concern. Sandra stepped closer. "This is about me," she whispered. "Every line feels like someone was watching me for a long time." Keanu placed the paper on the table gently, as if not wanting her to feel the sharpness of the message again. "This is not random," he said. "This is targeted." The assistant director nodded. "The handwriting is also unfamiliar. We checked with the crew." Sandra took a slow step back, pressing a hand to her chest. "I feel like my private thoughts were read by someone." Keanu moved right beside her, his voice calm but firm. Listen to me. This is not your fault. Nothing you felt is something you should blame yourself for. Whoever wrote this is trying to shake you, but they do not get to control your peace." She closed her eyes for a moment and breathed in his steady presence. Then she whispered, "What if he never left? What if he has been waiting for the right moment?" Keanu gently lifted her chin so she could look at him. "Then he should know he picked the wrong moment," he said softly, "because you are not alone this time." She nodded slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." Just then the security head walked back towards them, his expression tense. "We have something," he said. "A grainy image from the side gate. The person who entered matches the height and posture from the footage, but the face is still unclear." Sandra felt another wave of fear, but Keanu stepped forward with quiet strength. "We will review it," he said, "all of it." The security head nodded. "There is more. The person did not leave after placing the device. They stayed near the parking lot for almost an hour." Sandra's eyes widened, watching. "Yes," he said, "waiting for something." Keanu's voice lowered into a calm, protective tone. He waited for her reaction. Sandra felt a chill run through her. Keanu stepped closer to her, forming a quiet shield with his presence. "This is not the end," he said. "This is the beginning of understanding why he came back." And for the first time, Sandra realized the situation was far deeper than a hidden device or a mysterious message. Someone from her past had returned with a purpose, and she and Keanu were the only ones who could uncover it. The courtyard felt colder now, even though the sun was still shining. The thought that someone from Sandra's past had returned, someone who once made her feel unsafe, someone who had watched her quietly this morning, added a deep tension that neither she nor Keanu could ignore. Keanu stayed beside her with a calm strength. His presence felt like a quiet shield, steady and protective. Sandra trusted that presence more than anything at that moment. The security head guided them back inside to a small monitoring room where all the cameras were connected. The lights were dim, and the screens covered the walls. Every angle of the studio was captured. "We isolated the side gate footage," he said. "This is where the figure entered." He played the recording. A tall figure wearing the same dark hooded jacket walked through the gate early that morning before most of the crew arrived. The person moved with careful steps, as if they knew exactly where the cameras were. Keanu leaned forward, studying the posture. He has done this before. He knows blind spots. Sandra felt a shiver. That means he planned everything. The security head nodded. Yes, this was not random. He knew the schedule. He knew what time Sandra would be on set. He knew where the sound board was. Sandra took a slow breath. He knew I would break today. Keanu turned to her immediately. "Do not blame yourself. Whatever you felt today is not something he caused. Your emotions are yours. He only tried to use them." Sandra nodded softly. "I know. I just cannot believe someone paid this much attention to my life." Keanu looked back at the screen. "What about the parking lot footage?" The security head switched to another camera. The same hooded figure stood near the row of cars, leaning against a wall. The person remained there, motionless at times, watching the entrance of the building. Sandra's heartbeat quickened. He was waiting for me. Keanu touched her arm gently, guiding her to sit down. "Listen to me. Fear grows when you imagine the worst, but right now we are dealing with facts, and the fact is that he never approached you. He kept his distance. That says something." Sandra looked at him with confused eyes. "What does it say?" Keanu stayed calm. "It says he wanted to unsettle you, not harm you. He wanted you to hear those messages. He wanted you to react, but he did not want direct contact." Sandra swallowed hard. "That makes it even stranger." "Yes," Keanu said softly, "but it also gives us time." The security head paused the video. "There is something else. After placing the device, he looked toward the window of the room where you were rehearsing, almost like he knew exactly where you were standing." Sandra's hands tightened. "That means he was watching before today." Keanu nodded. "He has been preparing this for a while." The assistant director stepped into the room. "We talked to the crew. No one saw him inside the building except what the cameras showed. No one recognized the jacket either." Sandra leaned back in her chair, her expression heavy. "I thought the past stays in the past. I did not think someone would carry something like this forward for years." Keanu watched her with gentle eyes. Sometimes people hold on to things they should have let go, but their choices are not your burden. She breathed slowly. I feel like part of me is slipping, like he is waiting for me to fall apart again. Keanu shook his head firmly. He is not in control of your strength, you are. Before she could respond, the security head spoke again. We found the moment he left the studio grounds. He played another video. The hooded figure walked to the far corner of the lot, then paused. He turned his head slightly, as if listening for something. Then he took a small paper from his pocket. He looked at it for a moment before tucking it under the device area earlier. Then he walked away. Sandra stared at the screen. He wrote those lines long before today. Keanu nodded. Those lines were prepared. They were meant to trigger emotion. She swallowed. He knows I hide my feelings too much. That does not give him any right, Keanu said softly. And it does not make him stronger, it makes him desperate. She felt a faint tremble in her chest, but it eased when she looked at Keanu again. You always know how to put things in the right place, she whispered. Keanu smiled gently. I just speak truth, you do the hard part. The security head turned off the screens. There is one more thing. We traced the brand of the device. It is sold in only 3 stores in the city. We can check their purchase records. Keanu nodded. Good, that might give us a name. Sandra's breath hitched. What if it is him? Keanu turned to her, his voice soft and steady. Then we deal with it together. She looked at him, her eyes softening. Thank you for not letting me face this alone. You should never face things like this alone, he said. The assistant director walked closer. Should we call the police? Sandra hesitated. She felt torn. The last thing she wanted was public attention or drama, but she also knew this was serious. Keanu watched her quietly, letting her make the choice. After a long breath, she said, Not yet. I want proof first. I want to understand before I take the next step. Keanu nodded. That is reasonable, but we will stay alert. The security head agreed. We will increase surveillance. No one will get near you without clearance. Sandra gave a small, thankful nod. Keanu guided her out of the monitoring room and back to the courtyard. The quiet space felt safer than the screens and dark corners inside. They stood there for a long moment, just breathing. Finally, Sandra spoke. Keanu, I am scared that he knows what hurts me. I am scared he is watching for when I feel weak. Keanu stepped closer, looking into her eyes with steady calm. Then he needs to learn something important, he said softly. She looked up at him. What? That your weakness is not a doorway for him, Keanu said. It is a doorway for healing, and you have people who will stand with you. Her throat tightened. You really believe that? I do, he said, and soon you will too. She felt another wave of emotion, but this time it did not break her. It strengthened her. Then Keanu added quietly, and whoever he is, he did not expect you to have someone by your side today. Sandra looked at him, eyes shining. Thank you. Before they could speak again, the assistant director rushed out the door. We got a match, he said breathlessly. From the store records, someone with a familiar name bought the device 10 days ago. Sandra felt the world slow around her. Keanu stepped closer, steady and ready. What is the name? He asked. The assistant director held up a small piece of paper and read it aloud. Sandra's face turned pale. Keanu's eyes hardened with focus. The past had just stepped into the present. And now everything was about to change. The assistant director held the small slip of paper tightly between his fingers. The entire courtyard felt still, as if even the air was waiting for him to speak. Sandra stood beside Keanu, her breath soft but unsteady. Her heart felt like it was preparing itself for an answer it already feared. The assistant director read the name, and Sandra's stomach dropped. It was the name she had tried to forget. The name she avoided for years. The name of the man who once made her feel small without ever saying anything directly. The man who made silence feel like pressure. The name was real. He was real, and he had found his way back into her life. Sandra's knees felt weak for a moment, but Keanu reached out quickly, not grabbing her, but steadying her with a quiet presence she could lean into. It is him, she whispered. I knew it, I felt it. I hoped I was wrong, but I knew. Keanu nodded slowly, his voice calm but firm. You trusted your instinct, it was right. Now we act on truth, not fear. Sandra closed her eyes gently, allowing Keanu's steady tone to calm the storm inside her. When she opened her eyes again, there was hurt in them, but there was also strength. Why would he return after all these years? She asked softly. Keanu took a breath. Sometimes people who live in their own shadows try to pull others back into them, but it does not matter why he returned. What matters is what we do next. The assistant director stepped closer. We checked with the store. He paid with a debit card linked to his real identity. He did not even try to hide the purchase. Sandra frowned. That means he wanted the risk. Yes, the security head said. He wanted to be noticed at the right moment, but not by everyone, just you. Sandra felt a small tremor in her chest. This feels like something he has been building for a long time. Keanu spoke gently. Maybe, but you have grown too. You are not the same person he once tried to disturb. Sandra looked at him, her eyes softening. I do not feel strong. That is because strength is not loud, Keanu said. It is quiet. It is the way you walked back into the studio today even when you felt broken. It is the way you faced truth even when it scared you. She breathed slowly. His words sank deep. They felt healing. The security head cleared his throat. We can alert the authorities now. We have proof. We know he was on the property. We have the device, the note, and the store record. Sandra hesitated. Her eyes dropped to the ground. Keanu watched her with patience, letting her decide at her own pace. After a long, quiet moment, she whispered, I do not want him near my life again. I want this to end. Keanu nodded once, then let it end. The security head stepped away to make the call. Sandra and Keanu remained in the courtyard. Birds chirped above them. The wind moved gently across the leaves. The world outside was calm in a way the world inside them was not. Part of me feels relieved, she said quietly. Part of me feels like I am finally closing a door I never asked to open. That is what healing looks like, Keanu said. Sandra exhaled softly, but another part of me feels exposed, like I showed too much today. Keanu looked at her with gentle eyes. You showed your truth. That is not exposure, it is growth, and I am proud of you. Her heart warmed. Her eyes softened. You always know what to say, she whispered. Keanu smiled slightly. Not always, but I always try when it matters. She laughed softly, the sound light and real. A few minutes later, the security head returned. The authorities are handling it. He will not be allowed near the studio again, and they are opening an investigation. Sandra nodded, thank you. The assistant director approached next. We can pause filming for the day if you need time. Sandra looked at Keanu. Keanu looked back at her with a soft question in his eyes. She took a breath. No, she said. I want to finish what we started. I do not want him to take any more of my day. The assistant director smiled with relief. We will prepare everything. When they were alone again, Keanu turned to her. Are you sure? She nodded. I feel lighter, scared but lighter, and I know why. Keanu raised an eyebrow softly. Why? She smiled at him gently. Because you were with me when everything started breaking, and you were with me when everything started making sense again. Keanu's expression softened in a way she rarely saw. I am always here when it matters. They walked back toward the studio together. Crew members watched them with quiet respect. Nobody asked questions. Nobody looked with judgment. They simply understood that something heavy had happened, and that Sandra had walked through it with strength. And she had not walked alone. As they reached the set, Sandra paused. Keanu, she said softly, earlier today I walked away because I felt weak, but now I feel stronger because I let myself be honest. Keanu nodded. That is the strongest thing anyone can do. She smiled, a small, real smile. And then she said something that settled the rest of the day in the right place. Thank you for being the first to reach me. Keanu smiled back gently. I always will be. And as the cameras prepared to roll again, the energy of the set changed. Lighter, warmer, stronger. Sandra stepped into the light with new confidence. Keanu took his place beside her with calm certainty. The past had tried to return, but together they made sure it did not win. And the day that began with fear ended with strength, truth, and kindness.